The theatre director Michael Attenborough is the son of Richard, Lord Attenborough, a nephew of Sir David Attenborough. The connection between the Attenborough family and Leicester started when Michael's grandfather Frederick became principal of the then University College of Leicester in 1932, and he led the expansion to a fully fledged university. Grandfather Frederick was a dyed-in-the-wool academic with a lifetime of experience and love of learning. So it came as quite a shock when his eldest son Richard declared that he did not intend to go to university as he wanted to be an actor. Eventually, Frederick relented and agreed that Richard could study to be an actor if he got the most competitive scholarship at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Well, Richard duly got the scholarship and went to RADA, where he met Michael's mother, Sheila Sim. With his father, Richard, as an example, no such battles were necessary when it became clear that Michael's ambition was to be a theatre director. His early theatre experience came at the University of Sussex, where he studied English and was president of the Drama Society. There was very little formal training for theatre directors available in the UK at that time, and Michael learned direction on the job. After graduation, Michael took up the post of assistant director of the Sussex University Arts Centre. He then moved to associate director posts, first at Colchester and subsequently in Leeds, where in the course of 5 years he directed no less than 26 productions, including new plays as well as a range of major classics by Chekhov, Shaw and Shakespeare. In 1979, Michael became associate director of the Young Vic. A year later, he was appointed artistic director first of the Palace Theatre, Watford, and then the Hampstead Theatre. Next came a big step when Michael joined the Royal Shakespeare Company as executive producer, principal associate director. The RSC had a turnover of £40 million per year and employed 700 people. It had 3 theatres in Stratford and 2 in London. Clearly, the responsibility of staffing, funding, and running the artistic programme was a huge task. This and Michael's aim of always leading from the front by directing as many productions as possible gave him a very busy 12 years at the RSC. He relished the challenge of directing Shakespeare and ensuring that the plays are completely accessible to a contemporary audience. Michael confronted head-on modern actors' huge discomfort and fear of Shakespeare. All an actor had when he stepped out onto the Globe stage on a sunny afternoon in 1599 in front of 2,500 people was Shakespeare's words. It was Michael's belief that everything an actor needed to know about his or her character lay in the language which Shakespeare provides, and that their work today should start with a forensic examination of the text. After 12 years at the RSC, Michael moved to the Almeida Theatre in London, where he was appointed artistic director in 2003. Under Michael's leadership, the Almeida continued to be a centre for avant-garde theatre. During his tenure at the Almeida, 28 premieres occurred, 10 new versions of foreign plays, and 10 new plays for young people, and 4 major drama festivals. In 2012, he received the International Theatre Institute Award for Excellence, and also in 2013, the CBE for services to the theatre. Since leaving the Almeida in 2013, Michael has worked as a freelance director. Recent productions include Macbeth in Australia, As You Like It in Washington, as well as productions for the National Theatre, the Royal Court, and the Chichester Festival Theatre. Michael has recently acquired the teaching bug. Alongside his directing, he is now teaching at RADA, where he is Honorary Director Emeritus, the Arts Education Drama School, where he is patron, Sussex University, where he is Honorary Professor of English and Drama, and St Mary's University, Twickenham. At the heart of Michael's work with students lies the conviction that the key to Shakespeare is to understand his work as theatre rather than as literature. At the last count, Shakespeare wrote 37 plays, which were performed to a largely illiterate audience. Today, the challenge is to marry Shakespeare's oral tradition with the contemporary actor's post-Freudian, post-Stanislavski methodology, to strive, as Shakespeare put it, to suit the word to the action and the action to the word. Michael met his wife Karen, who is with us today, while she was working at the Haymarket Theatre, Leicester. They will work together on his next project, a film of the award-winning play The Herbal Bed, with Michael as director and Karen as associate producer. The story is based on a series of extraordinary facts about Shakespeare's elder daughter, Susanna. Michael has received honorary doctorates from the Universities of Sussex and Leicester. He has continued his own and his family's long and invaluable connection with the University of Leicester in many ways, not least as a very supportive patron of the Attenborough Arts Centre, which was founded by his father, Richard. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and Council, I present to you Michael John Attenborough, that you may appoint him Distinguished Honorary Fellow of the University.
Congratulations. Well done indeed, Michael. Fantastic. Well done. Thanks for all your support.
I'm rather short, so they've had to put a stool here for me. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, it's the most obvious thing to say, I am incredibly honoured by this moment. In particular, because I believe this university to be very special. It's very special to me for two very obvious reasons. The first, obviously, is that my grandfather, Fred, literally moved it from being a university college to being a university. And there's, as you all know, a huge building on your university campus named after him, and is most appropriately an arts building. As Paul mentioned, my father and my Uncle David, my Uncle John were brought up here, went to Wigston Grammar School, and so they felt always that Leicester was their hometown, and the university was particularly their home. In fact, to this day, on the wall outside College House, my Uncle John's engraving of his initials are still there to be seen. And they spent the final years of their adolescence, I guess, in Knighton Hall, which is now the home of the Vice-Chancellor. So that was a strange and spooky moment when I first went and stayed there. But aside from the connection of my family, there is another reason why, for me, this is a very special university. You will have spotted a recurrent word in talking about the relationship between my family and the university, and the word is the arts. My grandfather was an English literature scholar and on at Cambridge. My father was an actor and director. My uncle was a broadcaster, and that tradition has continued on, as you can see, through the family. But you know, the arts are not to be taken for granted. They need active encouragement. We're actually in an age where the arts is often under attack, where it's often marginalized and trivialized by the government, who cut back on grants to arts organizations, arts and humanities departments in universities, closing libraries, and so on. Now, you will not be surprised to learn that, to me, this is extremely dangerous and something that should be resisted at all costs. The point about the arts is that they go to the heart of what education is about, and Paul actually touched on this earlier. It's not simply a question of filling all of you with learning and facts. If we look at the word education, what does it mean? It comes from the Latin educo, which means to lead out, not to stuff in. And so education is about bringing out of every single one of you your own rich contribution to make to life. But that needs active encouragement. And I think self-expression is a very, very fundamental right. It's our right to be able to express ourselves. And that is what this education that you've had at Leicester hopefully has encouraged you to do. But it is specifically what the arts are there for. The arts look after the health of the nation that we can't see. It looks after the part of the national health that is invisible. Our emotional, psychological, even possibly spiritual health. It's impossible to quantify. We can't measure it, but it's very, very important. Indeed, I think in the last few years it's interesting that the whole notion of the subject of mental health has become an active debate within society and indeed now within government. And mental health is absolutely at the centre of art, because art investigates what's going on in here and allows people to express themselves. And young people, when they encounter the arts and express themselves, become quite transformed. It's quite extraordinary to watch, and I've done it over many years. Their acquisition of self-esteem, of self-confidence, of identity, of the ability to communicate. And actually, I think perhaps the greatest gift of all that the arts have to give, the gift of empathy. I look across this sea of faces here, and I see many colours and races and probably religions. We're in a world which sometimes encourages division, where people want to build walls instead of bridges, where people want to banish forms of sexual expression that they don't understand. And the arts breed empathy, understanding of the person next to me, the person opposite me, the person with whom I share this planet. This is terribly, terribly important. I want to just tell you that briefly, finally, that I was watching Question Time on last Thursday, and there was a very, very heated debate, as you will not be surprised to learn, about tuition fees. And one person from the audience contributed the view that the reason why there was such an explosion of expenditure on fees was that there was an explosion of the number of people going to university. And it was his view that this was ridiculous and totally unnecessary, and that the opportunities for young people existed beyond university and outside university, and he couldn't understand why all these people wanted to go to university. And to my shock, he actually got a fairly decent dose of applause. And I was appalled, because it betrayed such an astonishing lack of knowledge about why people go to university. He even said, look, there are apprenticeships all over the place. Why don't kids just go from school, have an apprenticeship, and then go straight into employment? And what that ignores is that those of you here today have not been educated to add value to the gross national product. That is not the purpose of what you've received. What you received, which I talked about earlier, is educo. Education in the broadest sense of the enrichment of your personalities. It's a time of discovery, of growth, of enrichment. And I would say, actually, using a slightly different word to Paul, but echoing what he said, Paul used the word inquiry. I would use the word questions. That actually what a decent education encourages you to do is ask the right questions. To question assumed wisdom. To question the assumptions that are often made. Because that's how we grow, that's how we change, that's how we develop. So, as I stand here today, I would encourage you to do that which artists do every day. Investigate and interrogate and cross-examine reality and the world around you. Continue, please, to answer and ask the right questions. We depend on that. Paul mentioned me working at RADA, and there's something wonderful about walking into a room with 30 kids who want to become actors and actually finding that although I've been directing for 45 years, they have the ability, even then, to challenge me in some of my assumptions. We all will learn from you. We all will develop society through and with you. I'm aware that there's a time limit on what I'm saying, so I probably ought to wind up here. But if I may, I want to congratulate you on your achievements. Above all, I want to celebrate with you your success. I'm very proud, as I said, to stand here today. It means a huge amount in terms of my family and in terms of this wonderful university that has committed itself so firmly to the arts, most visibly in the Attenborough Arts Centre, which was founded in order to provide access, initially for those who are disabled, but finally to anybody who believes, actually wrongly, that the arts are not there for them. I said at the beginning, I believe self-expression is a human right. Actually, I have to slip in that it's the 20th anniversary of the Attenborough Arts Centre, and they've just learned that their annual grant has been increased by 400%. It's the largest increase to an arts organisation in the country, other than the Manchester International Festival. So that's an amazing achievement, and it's an astonishing facility and resource that is so fabulously supported by the university. Thank you all so much for this. Thank you to the university for this honour, and well done. Huge congratulations. Thank you.